So it kind of feels like every other big budget show lately has been, well, a bit of a letdown, right? But out of nowhere, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has become this massive, massive success. Today we're going to dig into the Nerdrotic Daily Review to figure out just why everyone's calling this thing an absolute triumph.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to understand the context. The review basically says that right now, television, especially big fantasy stuff, is just a mess. It's like we're wading through this sea of disappointments, full of shows that try way too hard to be clever and just end up pushing fans away. It's a really tough time for any new show to make a splash.
And yet, despite all that, look at this number. The show has pulled in an average of 25 million viewers around the world. I mean, that's not just a hit. That's a statement. It's like the audience was screaming for something different, and this show finally gave it to them.
So, what's the secret sauce here? What makes this show so different? According to the review, it's actually pretty simple. It's not trying to trick you or subvert your expectations for no reason. Instead, it just commits 100% to telling a classic hero's story, and telling it really, really well.
Okay, so let's drill down to the absolute heart of why this thing works. The fundamental reason it's connected with so many people is, well, it's surprisingly straightforward, but it's something we just don't see much anymore. And here it is. The review puts all the credit right here. It argues that the show's incredible power comes from one simple decision: to be a faithful, super respectful adaptation of George R.R. Martin's original books. That's it. That's the foundation of its strength.
And what does faithfulness really mean here? Well, for starters, it means they kept Martin's dialogue, which is just brilliant at defining who these characters are. But it also means they stuck with that really intimate single point of view style from the books. That keeps the camera, metaphorically, right on the shoulders of our two main guys.
First up, you've got the very heart of the story, Dunk. He's this humble, ridiculously tall hedge knight who's just trying his best to live up to the knightly code he was taught.
And then you have his squire, Egg. He's this sharp, super clever kid, and he's got this air of mystery around him. His real identity is a huge secret that kind of fuels the whole early part of the plot. And let me tell you, the chemistry between these two, it's everything. But look, being faithful doesn't mean you have to be rigid, right? You can't just film the book page by page. And the review is quick to praise the showrunners for making some really smart, calculated changes that, for the most part, actually made the story better without ever betraying the original. Yeah, in fact, the review figures that something like 80% of the new scenes and little additions they made weren't just filler. They were genuinely effective. They deepened the characters, they deepened the story. It was honestly a masterclass in how to adapt something properly.
And here's a perfect example of one of those smart changes. In the book, when Prince Makar's son Egg leaves, you get the feeling Makar kind of gets it. He implicitly lets him go. But the show adds this great scene where he finds out Egg is gone and he just freaks out. It instantly injects this dose of drama and conflict for our guys on the road.
And here's why that's so brilliant. While that change definitely gives the moment a different feel than the book, it doesn't actually break anything down the line. It adds some tension right now for Dunk and Egg, but it still lets all the future events from the books happen just the way they're supposed to. It's a really smart, contained tweak.
Okay, so beyond just the plot and the great adaptation, the review points out that this show is hitting a nerve for another reason. It's tapping in to this really powerful underlying theme that feels, well, it feels both timeless and, honestly, super relevant right now.
So what is that? What's the deeper message that's making this show resonate so strongly? Especially when you look at the media landscape today, where you almost never see this kind of thing.
It's about the absolute, vital need for positive male role models. And you see this woven through the whole story. See, Dunk had a good mentor who taught him right from wrong, and now he's paying that forward by becoming that same figure for Egg. And what's amazing is that Egg knows he needs that guidance. He senses this potential darkness in his own family line, and he recognizes that Dunk is the father figure he needs to stay on the right path. It's just a powerful, positive, and honestly, refreshing message.
All right, so for our final section, let's talk about the bigger picture. How does all of this come together to create a potential blueprint for the future of the whole fantasy genre?
So much of the show's success comes down to this less is more idea. It basically proves you don't need a Game of Thrones level budget for every fantasy story. What you need to do is focus on what really counts: a great story, deep characters, and short, tight, impactful episodes. They even do clever things like showing you the aftermath of a big battle instead of the whole thing, which can be just as dramatic and a heck of a lot cheaper.
And you know what? This whole approach is absolutely perfect for this story. This is a story from the ground up, right? It's about a regular guy trying to become a knight. So keeping the production small and intimate, it just fits. It makes the whole thing feel more real and personal. Throwing in giant epic CGI battles would have actually hurt the story they were trying to tell.
And all of this leads us to one final big question. By going back to basics, prioritizing a faithful story, focusing on character, and keeping the production lean, has A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms accidentally stumbled upon the key to saving fantasy TV? That's something I think we'll all be talking about for a while.